Let's talk EUDR. The countdown has started with less than 8 months for companies placing cocoa or chocolate on the EU market having to be compliant. Can you tell us more what EUDR is and what impact it will have on the cocoa market?
Let me first say that for me, over the last 20 years, it's probably the most transformative project I've been working on. So it's really a big change. Basically, what the regulations say is that we need to make sure that for any product we place on the EU market, we can guarantee that there is no deforestation associated to it. It's a big deal because if you look at the deforestation trend over the last decades, roughly 90% of deforestation is associated to land shifting from forest to agricultural use. And if you zoom on cocoa, roughly 50% of cocoa expansion since the 1960s is associated to deforestation.
That sounds really like a tremendous challenge. What exactly is the regulation prescribing? What companies have to do to be compliant?
I would summarize it in 3 elements. The first one is we need to provide physical traceability, meaning that for every batch of chocolate or cocoa product, we need to be able to provide a list of plots, a list of polygons where the products are coming from. The second element is what we call the principle of legality. So we need to make sure that being on palm or on cocoa, the product we import are aligned with local legislation. The usual example we give is around protected area. In a country like Ivory Coast, it's estimated that roughly 20–30% of the cocoa comes from protected area. So obviously these volumes will have to be discarded. And the third principle is the principle of cut-off date. So there's a cut-off date in the regulation on the 31st of December 2020. Meaning that we need to guarantee that there is no deforestation associated with the product that would have happened after the 31st of December 2020.
And how is BC tackling that? What is our path towards compliance with the EUDR?
So our approach is structured around 3 main elements. The first one is around sourcing guidelines. So we have to work extremely closely with our sourcing colleagues, basically analyzing where the product is coming from, categorizing the volumes by level of risk, and then publishing sourcing policy. The second element is due diligence. So we are developing what I think is the most thorough due diligence approach with tools that are geared towards assessing the risk and tools that are geared towards mitigating the risk. A couple of examples on that, our deforestation monitoring platform, where we will be able to follow all the deforestation alerts and compare it with our polygons. So basically the maps of the farm we are sourcing from. Another example is the yield control, where we basically cap the volume that can be sourced from a specific plot, not allowing ourselves to source more than what that plot is supposed to produce. And the third element, which I'm extremely proud of, is the commitment towards forest protection. So for us, because the regulation has an obligation to mitigate the risk of deforestation, we're going to mainstream forest protection investment as the main element of our mitigation strategy.
Now let's do a zoom out and discuss how exactly EUDR fits into BC's sustainability plan Forever Chocolate.
Yeah.
Last year, Barry Callebaut launched its sharpened targets, looking at impact beyond 2025.
Yeah.
How does EUDR support BC in achieving its target of being forest positive by 2025 and a net zero company by 2050?
For me, what is fascinating is really EUDR is flowing all across Forever Chocolate. Obviously, there's 2 targets that are quite obvious. You mentioned thriving nature. We have a target of being forest positive by 25. Obviously, EUDR will be directly connected to that target. But if you look beyond, as you mentioned, our trajectory towards net zero by 2050, one of the main element of emission for BC is what we call land use change, which is basically the deforestation associated with the cocoa and the palm. So basically, by implementing EUDR, we are moving closer in our journey towards net zero. But even if you look at the agenda of poverty reduction or the agenda of human rights, for me, I've always considered traceability as a prerequisite condition to achieve poverty reduction and monitor human rights abuse, because you basically, through traceability, make the invisible visible.
Can you mention what are the key differentiators in our approach?
For me, there will be 2 differentiating factors. The first one is around the robustness and depth of our due diligence toolbox. And probably the key differentiating factor I'm the most proud of is our commitment to forest protection. So we'll scale up significant investment in forest protection project across all the different geography. At the core, at the essence of our mitigation strategy, we are placing forest protection is something I'm very proud of, and that will make us quite unique.
Thank you for this very insightful exchange.
Thanks, Elena.